Yo, 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 guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Game Seats Clay podcast. It's your boy Gautam, my boys Matt and Chuck. Gentlemen, welcome back. The season is officially underway. NBA season right around the corner. Media day, Warriors Media Day happened on Monday of this week, if I'm not mistaken. The Warriors having the season's back, man. We're back, Matt, Chuck. We're back on our regularly scheduled program. We got the redemption season. The way I think we're looking at a lot of people before we get back to the mountaintop, get the tail end of this era. But before we get into it, as always, how we doing, gentlemen? How we doing?
We're doing wonderful. Got the cocktail in hand, got the work day over with. I'm ready to talk some Dubs, ready to talk some Niners. That's what it's all about.
Yes,
That's what it's
sir.
all about. That's you, Matt.
I was feeling really good, and for literally no fucking reason, I'm scared now of the season. So, uh, you know, life's good,
Back.
things are
Back.
good, but all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Going into the pod today, I was like, I'm feeling too good. I mean, my hopes are not even high. They're just like I just have hopes, and that on its own has led me to feel overly optimistic. So now I'm nervous. Um, I'm ready to be disappointed. So
Just so everybody, just to give everybody a little refresher, going into Game 6, Matt actually kind of wanted the Warriors to lose so that he would have no more sleepless nights, which was kind of fair looking back on it. The kind of trials and tribulations of that 2022-23 squad. We'll love them, but not for the right reasons. A lot of fun stuff that happened that year. Not
I'm
uh,
gonna I'm gonna pause you real quick. I do not love. There is not a single part of last season that I thoroughly enjoyed. Not nothing.
I think Kevon Looney's buzzer beater, that was awesome. Like there
Okay,
were
well,
moments.
there
We
there
had
are
some
there are
moments.
slivers. There's needles in this haystack.
Steph's game
But
7. Like we had some
I
fun.
will I will I will build on that and say pretty much all of the top five at least moments of the season for me involved Kevon Looney. So
Yeah, very fair.
that's that
Very
says
apt.
that says a lot about Kevon Looney and also a lot about the season all at one time.
Very, very apt. But hey, it's always time to turn a page, and that's what the Warriors did on Monday. The media day kicked off, man. It was just great to see everybody. Steph, I don't know what the hell this dude's skincare routine is, bro, but that thing was glowing. And just as an observation. Clay, Dre, Wiggins, Chris Paul, Usman Garuba, the boy, yeah, Gary Payton, Steve Kerr, whole crew back at it on media day, man. Give me you guys' thoughts and takeaways, bro. It was fun. It was kind of the first full glimpse we got of the squad. Obviously after last season and everything, and it just feels like this season, Matt, you kind of hinted at it earlier, but if cautiously optimistic. It feels like everything the way this offseason went, with the additions, with Chris Paul, Saric, the draft picks, and pods, and kind of signing some of these guys like Rudy Gay. So it feels like the team is better constructed going into this season. And media day kind of felt like that. Just kind of the first season kickoff. So Matt, take it away, man. Well, give me your thoughts and kind of going into media day and how you kind of felt at the end of it.
yeah, so early on, I think it was Sunday or Monday, I forget which, but a Twitter or X account, Playoff Dre, tweeted and deleted that Draymond was hurt. Twisted his ankle, out 4 to 6 weeks, deleted the tweet. Everyone was kind of going nuts for a while. Media day more or less confirmed that was essentially accurate. So kind of a weird way to start things off, but I actually left Monday, and again, jokes aside, feeling pretty goddamn good. Like this team seems like they're all on the same page. I think everything you could have wanted to hear from every single Warrior that you wanted to hear from was like came out the exact way you wanted it. Chris Paul saying all the right stuff. The guy sounds like he's open to whatever, genuinely. He referenced his time on the 2008 Olympic team, I think, coming off the bench as a thing that he was that he referenced as kind of preparing him for a potential bench role. Which again, him just being open to the idea at this point before training camp season started is huge. Draymond, like I said, 3 to 6 weeks out. Warriors will adjust accordingly. I'm curious as to what you guys think. If he's out for the first week or so of the actual season, what you think the Warriors should do? But it looks like they're going to start Chris Paul for Draymond more or less, and go really small. But no, overall, I was just everybody seems like they're in a good headspace. The Chris Paul addition seems like everybody's really into it. It sounds like the team is just laser focused, and I think Draymond brought it up, and was pretty spot on comparing last season to the 2020-2021 season, in that the season afterwards, all these guys were pissed and locked in, right? Draymond was locked in, Steph was locked in. Draymond talked about on media day just how that a season like that really motivates you. And we've actually seen that with these guys. They all want to win real bad. So no, I mean, overall, jokes aside, this team sounds locked in. Kuminga sounds like he's gotten a lot of work in. I kind of noted this during the summer, but Klay just looks good. He sounds good. I'm expecting a huge Klay Thompson season. Wiggins just expressing high goals for himself, for me, is just like, yeah, Wiggins, you shoot for the stars, man. The fact that he wants something big is huge. I'm ready for it. This team's they've got weapons, they've got guys. I want to see what you guys think about the Rudy Gay stuff too. But overall, no, I came away from media day just thinking this team is, at the very least, they're old as shit, but they're locked in. So.
No, I'm with you there. I think they look very locked in. One thing that I saw was funny, and it doesn't really have to do with media day, well, sort of, but our guys over at the Warriors Muse account tweeted out the last 10 seasons of Klay Thompson. When he smiles in his profile picture for the season, they make the finals, and when he frowns, they do not make the finals. And he smiled, fellas. So book those tickets now. We have a finals appearance locked in. I thought that was wild. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. I think the big tidbits that stood out to me the most, besides, just the general positivity, optimism, and just the hunger around this team, kind of playing into that, Chris Paul just said, I'm here to win. Like, if I got to come off the bench to win, if I got to start to win, if I got to play, if he's got to play 20 minutes, if he's got to play 40, he wants to win. So I think he is kind of picking up on the mentality of this group. Like, we only have so many years left. We got to do it now. We got to make all the sacrifices necessary to get there. So that is awesome. I really love hearing that out of him, because I think there were some worries that, maybe the never having come off the bench thing would be kind of a sticking point. And obviously the Draymond news kind of throws that into the mix, but we'll get into that later. Another one I really love seeing, Steve Kerr said the most obvious thing ever that I can't believe people didn't think was obvious was, yes, we're going to run more pick and roll because we have Chris Paul, which I said from day one would be the case, because you now have one of the best pick and roll players of all time. And yeah, they're going to integrate him into some sets. They're going to get him going on the motion stuff, some pistol type actions, 21s, maybe some double drags, and the whole split cuts, that fun stuff. But there's nothing like a good 1-5 pick and roll with Chris Paul when you got a few shooters on the wings, some guys who can cut explosively like Jonathan Kuminga and Gary Payton. So yeah, I couldn't believe that was even in doubt, that people thought they would pick up Chris Paul and just say, yeah, we're just going to run you off handoffs. We're not going to let you run more pick and roll. Like,
well, the funniest thing was too, like, there was no reaction to that. All the reaction was to, well, why not do that more with Steph? Like, just stop.
Exactly.
Just stop for a second. It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, just take it down.
The thing is,
slow the outrage roll just for a second.
That's something that's never gonna happen with Warriors Twitter or any kind of fan base Twitter at this point. I've lost all hope of normalcy. But no, you guys summed it up well, man. I don't know if I can do much better, but this squad looks like they're ready to go win a championship. And Matt, I'm happy you brought up like 2021 and then moving over to 22, and it feels like that. We're obviously getting bounced from the play-in and second round in last year. So you're motivated. These guys, I remember in going into 22, it felt like, if they can get off to a good start, Klay's coming back. Jordan Poole obviously made the leap. So now you kind of pivot coming off a second round exit, Steph, Klay, Draymond, all looking healthy, all looking good. Wiggins, GP, who I feel like people have kind of underrated how much they missed last season. Gary Payton obviously acquired back, towards the end of the season, and then Wiggins was just in and out of the lineup, obviously with the family issue, but also the sickness. He had an adductor strain for a while, so he missed a lot of time last year. So you're really getting a fully healthy, fully stacked, and like locked in team that Not to say that they weren't last year, but obviously there was stuff that came up off the court, and that story wrote itself. But it feels like everybody's kind of got a renewed sense of urgency, like you said, Chuck. Like they've got, Draymond's locked in for 4 years, Clay's up for an extension, probably around 3-4 years. Steph's got another 3 years. So they know this is the final iteration kind of the dynasty that they once were. And if they can get back to the mountaintop for number 5, I think Steph kind of said it, man. He said it's all it means everything to go back and get number 5. So they're locked, man. Yeah, I did say if you're right. When they go back and get number 5. But yeah, man, that's kind of what my takeaway was, and it felt like they got the squad to do it this season. So the optimism from the optimist is off the charts right now. Off the charts.
Also, I love that, and I love that you brought up just the vibes again. And here's my impression: I think Steve Kerr is in like preemptive heaven right now, and I think last year he was in like the darkest pits of hell for most of the season. Like I think he must have hated that season. I can't think of a player the way Jordan. Again, not trying to rip on Jordan Poole, but the way Jordan Poole played last year was the most, stylistically speaking, the most antithetical style of play to what Steve Kerr likes to do. So that must have driven him nuts. And I think just having, and he's been raving about Chris Paul for most of the summer. Do you think this was was the Chris Paul move as much a Steve Kerr decision as anything else, you guys think?
Totally. I mean, I think that you heard it at the end of Game 6 last year, where they said this team wasn't built to win a championship, and obviously it was super right, but I think stylistically, you heard it from guys like Steph and Kerr after the series, where they felt like that we didn't really have any other way to score except it was either settle for long threes, and Poole couldn't get it going in the second unit. And Chuck, I'm happy you brought up the pick and rolls and that whole discussion that's going on Twitter or whatever. It was a surprise, but having a guy like Chris Paul who can slow down the game, especially in the second unit, and I said this when they signed him or when they traded for him, that it kind of reminds me of like that Sean Livingston run second unit, where it was really about, Steph and the starters, they're going to grow the lead, get off to a good start, whatever it is. And then Livingston, Barbosa, like Mo Spates would come in off the bench, and, they would play a slower game. Sean Livingston with the post-ups from the mid range, kind of getting guys involved. And now you have a kind of an even better version of that with Chris Paul, with guys like JK, GP, Moody, Dario. So like they've got a lot of guys who fit into the system. And I think Chris Paul, who everybody's been raving about him, but it's true, man. Like, bias aside, like Chris Paul, dude, if he knows how to score points. He's still one of the most premier offensive facilitators. That mid-range jumper is still absolutely money. So, I mean, I think that it's going to make the Warriors even more dangerous. Now they're more multi-dimensional. Obviously, you've got Steph and the motion and that whole like Warrior system, but now to be able to, really be able to score in the half court, if, especially in the playoffs, we've seen, where the Warriors can kind of go on those lows, especially last season. So I'm excited for it, man. I'm fully into the Chris Paul deal. I think not just Kerr, I think everybody, I think the vets were obviously behind, like, okay with it as well, to kind of move off of Poole and kind of make this like 1 year-ish investment in the CP. So I think they're all locked and loaded, man. It's going to be fun to watch, and I guess we get to see it Saturday night. So at least the beginning of it. So it'll be fun, man. I'm excited for it.
I love that you brought up just the bench play for a second, just because everyone says this, but it's absolutely true. Like Chris Paul creates good shots. Like he just does. Like he's going to make sure a team gets a decent shot off. That's always been his thing, no matter what kind of offense he's in. I'm all the more excited for that in an offense like Steve Kerr's, where it's just constant movement all around, because between the movement, Chris Paul's just, again, I don't use the word dedication to getting a good shot at the end of a shot clock. I think this team's going to get a lot of easy looks that they just haven't gotten in the past because of that movement, because of Chris Paul. I'm not going to lie, I'm all in on this. I think I've said it a few times, but I'm really ready for the season to get going and see what Chris Paul can do with this team. Because again, baseline, when you're that good and that smart, you're just not. I'm not worried about his age at all. I'm worried about his health a little bit, getting hurt, sure. But as far as his effectiveness when he plays, I'm not concerned in the slightest.
100%.
So let's go a little further on that. So we know that Saturday we got Chris Paul going to be in the starting lineup. They're going full small, Wiggs going at the 4. And how do we feel about the starting unit? How do we feel about that crew without Draymond in
Matt, I'll let you go first. I just want to say it's hilarious how people are calling Steve Kerr an idiot. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. Just all sorts of stuff on the first preseason game when Draymond Green is already out. I just think that's the state of a lot of the Twitterverse or the Xverse, however you want to call it right now, and it's hilarious to me. But Matt, I want to hear your thoughts, man.
Well, dude, you're not wrong, man. Again, we've got Twitter personalities saying things word for word along the lines
Insane.
of I could coach this team better, or I could manage a better roster. But anyway, so again, as far as preseason goes, I don't really give a shit. I think you got to try things out. This is the time to try it out. And it's one of those things. If this was the first game of the regular season, I would not be thrilled. But hey, give it a go. If it looks freaking fantastic, you see what happens. There's always been. We've had a lot of talk about, who might come off the bench, whether it's Chris Paul. It's been Chris Paul, pretty much is all we talked about. But there's a realistic world where it's not one of those two guys. Steve Kerr has talked about this summer how he doesn't view Looney as like the tic-tac-toe piece anymore that he can just take in and out. He wants to he thinks Looney's earned the respect to not be that guy any longer, and I totally agree. So maybe there's a world where the Warriors take off. Draymond misses a week. The Warriors start out 4-0, and this lineup looks fantastic. And Draymond's the guy that comes off the bench, right? I'm not totally closed off to the idea. Like I said, if it's game one of the regular season, this is not a move I would want to see. Personally, I don't. Chuck, you kind of mentioned this in our thread the other day, in our group chat, but I would like the idea of keeping Chris Paul and Kuminga kind of tied together at all times and not really disrupting that. That's a move they want. And I would have loved to have seen Moody start. I don't think he'll play enough minutes to really disrupt the rotation anyway. I think he could probably, if he's playing 25 minutes as opposed to 17, it's not going to throw anything off. He can scale up or down a little bit. He can defend both directions as well. So having him out there again gives you a lengthy defender next to Clay, next to Wiggins. If we're talking about Clay playing the 4, personally, I don't see why, if we're going that small, there's no reason Moody can't do that either. He's got a longer wingspan anyway. The guy shoots the hell out of the ball, as we saw last year. So Moody's the guy I'd want to see if it's day one. But talking about preseason, I'm not freaking out about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. And I was going into it today. Possible article loading, depending on how much tape I get through tomorrow. But I'm intrigued with this idea of Clay guarding 4s because he's very, very stout in the post. So if you have a guy who is bigger, more physical, there are some possessions I was watching on tape where he was holding his own against Aaron Gordon. He was holding his own against Julius Randle. Not your premier kind of offensive player, but he got Obi Toppin in the post who tried to just run through his chest, and Clay just stripped the ball so easily. So that's the things for me is the strength, the knowing what to do, and the hands make him a really tough guy to mismatch. And most 4s you see now are they're spacing in the corners. They're taking a lot of 3s. They're probably going to try to be cutting and getting on the glass a bit. And, granted, that's kind of Clay's weakness. If he's having to box out bigger guys, it's probably not going to go that well. But I'm in on this idea because he didn't look great at the point of attack last year. He's still kind of a step slow out there. He lost that sort of, quick area explosion that he had before the injuries, and understandably so. And, because he's guarding 4s, that doesn't change his offensive role. That is such a Warriors thing to have them have a guy ostensibly playing just flying off of handoffs, and then you just stick him in the corner defensively and just make him a help rotation guy who's contesting a whole lot of 3s. And, they're going to switch pretty much everything, at least 1 through 4, as we know. So he's still going to get opportunities to be out on the perimeter. They're going to rotate guys around. He's used to this. Really, the only thing that changes is now instead of starting on a team's second option on the perimeter, he's starting on their 4th. So, yeah, I'm really in on this idea.
I think it's really important that you brought up just the point of attack defense from Clay because again, people do this. We had the Warriors Twitter freak out. Clay's guarding fours. Holy shit! Fire Steve Kerr and then cut off one of his limbs because he's a fucking asshole. Okay, no. So like you said, the guy is not the same at the point of attack as he used to be, and he's playing in this lineup we're talking about with Chris Paul, Steph, Wiggins, and Clay and Looney. Wiggins is just leaps and bounds the best point of attack defender in that group. You're not going to have him on a 4 in this case. You're going to want him on whoever that guard or wing is on a different team. Clay is not that guy. And they're not going to have Steph or Chris Paul guarding up. So here we are. This is where you wind up when you're small. They are small. We've seen Clay do this, like you said. The guy also, props to Klay Thompson for being a fucking warrior in the paint. He just battles. He battles his ass off, and he's always going to. So, hey, that's where we're at. I think it's a great point, Chuck. Gautam, what do you think?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I think, I mean, from a preseason like lineup standpoint, totally agree with you. I don't give a shit about preseason. They'd have like 3 practices under their belt, something like that. So it's the time to try it out. And I do like Chuck just kind of going off that Clay at the 4 thing. And I think that, it's not necessarily even for that Chris Paul's like this lineup that we're talking about right now. Like if you throw out like a GP, a Steph, Wiggs, a Clay guarding the 4 there. It's not necessarily just with that small lineup where Clay can make an impact. And I totally agree. Like he's definitely lost a step. And we saw it. Like not to say he was getting. I mean, he was kind of getting cooked by guys like Devin Booker, Paul George, like guys who who are bucket getters that Clay would normally pre ACL or pre Achilles would kind of man up with and go from there. But I think that, like you said, man, Clay's such a good defender and a good team defender that. Him at the 4 with Looney kind of manning the paint. And, I think it's just going to be an interesting look. And like you said, he's not going to have to not exert as much energy, but he's not chasing around the premier 1-2 options like he was in the past. So we saw Clay's legs kind of give out towards the end of that Lakers series last year. So who knows, so even from a defensive standpoint, you're kind of reducing that impact on a 33-year-old Clay who's been through kind of the ringer with the injuries, but he looks good. He looks in shape. I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And everybody, and I don't think, Draymond looked good. Kuminga definitely like some of the clips we were seeing. So I'd honestly be excited to see a guy like Dario kind of step in if Draymond does miss that first week or however long the ankle injury takes. A guy who I think Steph was talking about him just be having the IQ to kind of play basketball the right way, and he's a guy who's big, he can shoot. So I think that kind of with that Steph, Clay, Wiggins kind of starting lineup with Looney, we haven't really seen the Warriors have the size impact or the size advantage that often in many matchups or whatever. So to have a guy like Dario out there who he's a big body, but can shoot, can really run the offense as well, and I think can play well off Steph and Clay, would be somebody that I think even as a vet doesn't really mess with the bench. And I think I forget which one of you guys brought it up in the group chat, but kind of not tinkering too much with the bench rotations, which obviously takes a lot more to figure out and kind of settle into. So I think the earlier that we can get people kind of bought into these roles, especially with Draymond out, I think the better. So a guy like Dario, who I think you can kind of fit anywhere into the rotation, I really see him and Rudy Gay kind of having like an Otto Porter type impact, where hit a few shots, get some rebounds, decent defender, play smart. So that'd be kind of lineup I'd want to see. But yeah, man, all the stuff that we were hearing from media day, even the Draymond injury, like I'm not too worried about it. It sounds like it's just kind of one of those sprains that just kind of happens when you're playing pickup. Didn't sound as severe as maybe that was once thought. And again, it kind of gives the Warriors to have a chance to get a different look at some of these issues, or like not issues, but these topics. The whole starting the 6 starters or whatever it is, what kind of lineups start to work. And I got full faith in Draymond that whenever he's back, he's going to be ready to go. So it really is kind of a blessing in disguise to kind of let him ease into training camp. Can't punch anybody, hopefully. So he had a good time, get rest up, lift, whatever it is like that he's getting into his offseason or whatever training camp regimen.
Dude, yeah, if you're loading up that right hook, you really need the right foot. So
Yeah,
you wouldn't
exactly.
have a whole lot of lift going into that.
If you're trying to go body, we'll see. But yeah, man, that's I think it's a fun stuff, man. We're back, and that's really what the whole takeaway was from all these headlines and whatever it was from media day.
You guys feel like Rudy Gay has that 14th spot on lock?
I hope so. I really hope so.
I think so, and I've also been marinating on is this too spicy? Should I leave it in the group chat? But so I'm in on the idea of like I do not want this bench unit disrupted, and I'm also pretty convinced that the four-man unit of Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Looney can carry just about whoever they put into that fifth spot. So my thought is if you're going to roll with the early season lineup and you really don't want to disrupt what you're doing, um, granted, my preferential option would be Moody and then do the Clay at the four thing. Matt, I really like that you brought that up because he slides in as an extra wing shooter. He can pick up some tough assignments. You know he's going to hustle. You know he's going to get boards, which they really need. Um, but hell, if Rudy Gay is on the roster and he's the 14th man, like plug him into the starting lineup from regular season day one, play him like 15 minutes tops, and just have him there as a placeholder so you could get into your normal rotations. You can start blending things together. You go a little smaller as the game progresses, and then you figure out how you want to close based on how the game progresses. Like, do you want to throw Chris Paul and Steph in together and do the small lineup that we're seeing starting the preseason? Do you want to throw Kuminga out there because you need a little bit more size? Do you want to throw Moody out there again for size, shooting, and just a guy who's going to work really hard defensively, have his arms everywhere in the passing lanes? So, like, you have options to go to. And my issue with, in Gotham, I'm with you too. Like, Sarge would be great if you plug him into the starting lineup, but they're pretty clearly counting on him to be the 5 right now. So if you put him in the starting lineup, then that means Trace Jackson Davis minutes. And we don't really know if Trace Jackson Davis is like rotation ready or a guy that they're counting on for the rotation. So that's my kind of general thinking is if you just plug in someone who is not going to be interrupting what you want to do with the bench, what you want to do with your normal rotations, like a Rudy Gay, then I think you can really solve a lot of these problems. And then one more thing I want to build on too with Matt, what you said, like if you roll out this smaller starting unit or whatever starting unit you decide to go with in the regular season and they're cooking and you just don't want to mess with it, I think what they can also do is, like ankle injury, Draymond's probably going to be on a pitch count when he comes back. Like I doubt they're just going to be like, here you go, you're back, 35 minutes tonight. Good luck. So that's the way I think you can kind of slow play it is bring him off the bench, work him back in, get him limited minutes, 20, 25 at the start. And then if they're really, really cooking and that starting lineup is still working, then you just start to ramp up the Draymond minutes. You keep him off the bench. You see how things are going. And I think you just ride that thing until the wheels fall off. Because if it's working, it's working. And Draymond's a pro. He's going to do what he has to do.
I think that's a great point. I think I was shocked. That's a clip right there. That's a bar. Get that in there, Gotham. That's what we need. But no, I think
clip that.
Draymond actually, jokes aside, like is a guy who I could see being willing to come off the bench. That's how it comes. That's how it goes down. I still don't know about Clay. He's the only question mark I have about somebody who'd be open to it. But I think Draymond would be. So that's why I'm just not crazy concerned about it. If it's not working, I know, again, we have a many game sample size at this point, knowing their usual starters work. If something else is great, they start up whatever. No, hey, let it rock. See what happens. My guys, I gotta sign off. You guys keep the shit going. All right.
Oh yeah, Matt. Hell of an episode from you. We'll get this up ASAP. But Chuck, before we hit the Warriors, we had some good stuff. But there's also another big storyline outside of the NBA world. And it's Cowboys week, baby. It's Cowboys week. We got the Dallas Cowboys coming into town to take on the San Francisco 49ers. 4-0 San Francisco 49ers against 3-1 Dallas Cowboys. How How we feeling, man? Talk me through it, man. The Niners obviously coming off a very nice win against the Cardinals. Actually, even just looking back at the tape and everything, like a very, very impressive win. Brock Purdy, 20 for 21, 283 yards, a touchdown, a rush touchdown. Christian McCaffrey saving fantasy teams all over the world with a damn near 50 piece. 4 touchdowns. Could have had 5 if Kyle Shanahan kind of knew the stats, but he was locked in on just getting the dub. But Cowboys coming to town, man. And this is really the first test for this Niners team. Obviously we've seen them through the first 4 games. We've seen them, kind of all offseason. This has been the season where they feel like they can go and go get to the top finally. Had a few cracks at it, but Dallas is their first real test. There's a team that they've sent home the last 2 years. Both in the playoffs, one in Dallas, one in Levi's. Obviously a home game coming up this Sunday night. But talk me through your thoughts, Chuckster. What are you expecting to see? What kind of has to happen in your eyes, and kind of just give me your breakdown of this Sunday night classic, man. We're gonna get a good one on primetime.
Yeah, so this is how I was looking at it throughout. I'm just looking at the Cowboys up and down, and obviously they have a great defense. Diggs being out is tough for them. Deron Bland's been doing some good things, but that really weakens them. And when I'm looking at these teams up and down, throw out the records, throw out the performance they've had this season, throw out the fact that the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals, which is hilarious. But the Cardinals have been like shockingly
good, man.
competitive.
They're good football.
Josh Dobbs looks like a quarterback to stay in this league, which is crazy. But you look at these teams up and down. What position group are the Cowboys better at than the Niners right now? Like, I don't think they have the edge on the offensive line anymore, just because they're so beat down with injuries and they finally have holes showing. It's close, granted, but when you have Trent Williams playing as well as he is, you have the interior of the offensive line with Burford, Aaron Banks playing really well, creating so many holes for McCaffrey. I think that gets a little tough. Secondary, even without Diggs, I'd probably give it to the Cowboys because the Niners just don't have a great secondary, but still
Been a problem forever. But
yeah, that's kind of the norm. Like every team's kind of got to pick a spot where they're going to be weak, and the Niners have decided, look, our corners can keep a guy covered for 3 seconds because that's how long our defensive line is going to take to get to you. I really think that the Niners are better at every other spot. Like, they have probably the top linebacking core in the league. They have an unbelievable defensive line with the way Javon Hargrave is playing, #1 in pressures among all defensive tackles. Nick Bosa, we know what he's about, had a bit of a slow start to the year, but he looked like he was right back on track Sunday. Javon Kinlaw is looking as healthy as ever. He's an absolute beast. And my guy, Drake Jackson, looking like if he's your 4th pass rusher on the defensive line and run stopper, like, yeah, you're doing really well. And then, man, like this, it's just crazy watching this offense go to work. Like, they're averaging well over 30 points per game with Brock Purdy as a starter going back to last season. And it makes sense because he looks surgical. Christian McCaffrey is running through every hole he can find, and he's creating holes that aren't there. He's breaking tackles. He's hurtling over guys, making it look so easy. And then you have this ridiculous wide receiver breakout from Brandon Ayuk that has been like so prolific that George Kittle is clearly the 3rd option now, which is something I didn't ever think I was going to say, because he's one of the best receiving tight ends in the league, and they just haven't needed to use him that much.
And Debo Samuel's arguably your 4th. Like, you got George Kittle and Debo kind of fighting for that 3 and 4. It's like McCaffrey and Ayuk are your 2 guys right now.
Yeah, those are your go-tos. And then you got like Jawan Jennings, who I always loved. He's winning out of the slot. He breaks tackles. He's a huge body. He always brings them down. Like, they have such an unbelievably talented offense. And that's kind of what it comes down to for me is I just can't believe like these are obviously both two great defensive teams, but I see one team that is pretty much incapable of being slowed down offensively right now, and I see another team that's very capable of being slowed down defensively. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, that was a fantastic breakdown. Just kind of going on, like just going into Cowboys week. I think we've heard a lot of talk from Cowboys fans and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones came out and said, you kind of have to go through San Francisco to get to the Super Bowl. We've known that. I think sending them home the last 2 years, obviously, just the mental aspect of it, and I think a lot of these big games, it really comes down to, and we felt that we've seen this with us playing the Seahawks. I can remember kind of having that mental block of going against like, yo, damn, like they've beaten us a good amount of times. Like we got to get over the hump. And I think for the Niners, that's a massive advantage because the Niners are focused on, or the Cowboys are focused on beating the Niners, and the Niners are focused on winning a Super Bowl. And I think that's really where you get the difference in these two teams coming into this matchup. Obviously Cowboys just getting sent home the last 2 years by the Niners. You've heard that Dak was pissed off in their post game last week. Just somebody brought up like losing the Niners. So I think the Niners kind of have a mental edge already just going into it. And the fact that they weren't able to get over the hump, and it feels like this team is coming in with more of a purpose than ever before. Like you said, man, the offense is a juggernaut. The defense is obviously still as stout as it was, with still like ways that they can get better in terms of allowing just yards. I think that the quick game's kind of gotten to them, and that's really where I think Dallas is going to have to exploit the Niners. Is kind of saw the Rams do that with Stafford. We kind of saw Daniel Jones do that last week or 2 weeks ago with the Giants. Kind of just really quick routes, don't let the D-line get to the quarterback, and really kind of just those 5 to 7 yard pickups and kind of just chomp down the field. But the Niners are on a collision course, man. They're trying to go to the win the Super Bowl, and I think that I haven't seen a more just like kind of similar to the Warriors in terms of where they're coming into with a mentality standpoint of this is the year to do it. And you kind of feel that every time you hear these Niners talk, man. I don't think the regular season. There's nothing that they're overthinking about this. I think Nick Bosa said it today. He was like, it's a big game, but for us, it's just another regular season game. And I think they know that it's just game 5. It's a game that I think has a lot of implications. I think if the Niners can win this ball game, I think you kind of knock out any chance of you having to go to Dallas and play a playoff game, regardless of how the season shakes out. Whether the Niners are 1 seed, 2 seed, whatever it is, like 3 seed, whatever it shakes out. If you're able to beat Dallas, go to 5-0, they're at 3-2. More likely than not, if you see them again in the playoffs, they'll probably come to Levi's. And B, I think that, man, this is the first test that they have. You can argue all you want about the competition, but they play kind of similar teams. Obviously, the Niners beating the Cardinals, the Cowboys didn't, but this is the first real test. And I think it's time to put some respect on Brock Purdy's name, man. I think Purdy is going to be the X factor in this game. We kind of saw it last year with Dallas, again, in playoffs. It really came down to which quarterback protected the ball. Dak turned it over twice. Purdy didn't. Niners were able to capitalize and ended up winning 19-12. I don't think it's going to be that kind of a game this time. I think that this offense, and I think Purdy specifically, has improved significantly since his last time facing these guys in last year's playoffs. Man, Brock going 20 for 21 and just it was really the process, and you can't really see this when you watch the game live, but I'm sure you're watching like the film breakdowns and stuff, Chuck, but I really want people to like go back and like watch some of these film breakdowns of Brock playing the quarterback position in this offense. And he's taken this to it being a juggernaut. Like we've had success with Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously having one of the highest winning percentage in Niners history or something like that, something crazy. Brock is surgical. He's making every single read that you want him to do. It seems like he and Kyle are on the same page. And it's really opening everything up. Like you said, Brandon Ayuk, breakout season. Debo had a big game this year. Kittle has already had a big game and really hasn't felt like it. And obviously CMC is looking like he looks like she should be the first MVP, a non-QB MVP since 2012. So like you said, man, I think the Niners kind of outmatch them from a majority standpoint. I think it comes down to how can Brock exploit that Cowboys defense, because I think the Niners are going to have a pretty pretty okay time handling the Cowboys offense. Obviously they put up some big scores, but Dak and the offense have scored 4 touchdowns this year through 4 games. They've struggled a lot in the red zone. Dak, he's been focusing more on the quick game with Mike McCarthy as the play caller, but he's prone to turnovers. I think the Niners are going to be able to force some. So it really comes down to, can Brock take care of the ball like he has? Find those pockets in the defense and really wear this defense down, because it feels like the 2 matchups have been kind of grinded out games. And these were one was Jimmy Garoppolo and one was Brock Purdy. And so I think we're getting the best version of Brock that we've seen so far. He's humming, offense is humming. And I think that, they know they just have the mental edge. And I really think that's going to play a big factor in how Sunday night plays out.
Yeah, I'm with you too on the mental edge. Like, I think it's such a stark comparison where, the Cowboys are talking this up as like a big test and all of these things. And then, like you said, Bosa just being like, it's another game. Like,
Game 5.
Every football team is good. We're going to play to the best of our abilities. And that's probably going to go well for us because we're incredibly talented. And man, like, one more thing that I just got to give a shout out to, like, CMC has been so ridiculous so far.
Dude is insane.
Right now he's sitting on an average of 115 yards per game.
My fans
rushing.
Cooking because of him.
Rushing. That's just the rushing. And then he's also catching 35 yards per game, which is kind of a testament to like how the game flow has gone, because 35 yards per game through the air, that would be the worst season of his career by far. But, when you're rushing for 115 yards a game, that's okay. And he's like getting the rock into the end zone. He's got 7 total touchdowns now through 4 games. I mean, he just looks so dynamic. He's barely coming off the field, which is also the crazy thing. And like, he's always been a guy where, they've had to manage him. Like, and they've had to, like, especially his Carolina days, he started off 3 straight years, didn't miss a game. Then the injuries just really hit. He had 3-game season. He had a 7-game season. And then he got back to a full 17 last year. So he's looking as healthy as ever. He's absolutely back into his flow right now. He's ripping off 5.7 yards per carry.
Insane, man.
And 8 yards per catch. Like, it's just absurd, man. And look, the early season stretch has been like easier, and they're going to play tougher defenses. Like, Cowboys, tough defense. Week after that, they got the Browns, tough defense. So that's going to be a real test for his overall candidacy for MVP. But if they come out of those games with wins and he's still chugging out like 100 yards from scrimmage and he's getting into the end zone, I don't see why he's not the favorite, because like,
he really should be.
And I think it really speaks to that. Like you said, last running back MVP, Adrian Peterson, 2012, special year. But McCaffrey is looking like he's in it for a special year. I mean, we're only a quarter of the way through, but this could be damn near 2,000 yards from scrimmage. He's looking like he's trying to sniff 20 touchdowns total on the season. And this team looks unbelievable. And, you talk about that AP year, like, AP was the thing that made them go, but that was a 10-6 football team.
Yeah.
It's like they needed every single bit of that. And like it's tough to win the MVP when your team wins 10 games.
Yeah.
If your team wins like 13, 14 games, which is what the Niners look like they're capable of doing, and you are the centerpiece of that offense having an unbelievable season, then I don't see why he can't win it, man. Like,
I hope so.
He looks like the best player on this team.
I hope so. And like you said, man, it's awesome to watch him run every week, man. It's that hurdle for the touchdown was insane. And just to have him as your safety valve, I think, that's also a part, and obviously, like, you give credit to Brock, but I think that's also a huge reason why he's so successful is, he knows at the very least I got McCaffrey in the backfield, and something good's gonna happen. But before we get out of here, Chuck, score prediction, man. What you got? What's gonna happen Sunday night as we take on them boys from Dallas on Sunday?
I still think the train keeps rolling with Purdy. I just think this offense is looking way too good. Diggs is, going to be a huge loss for them because, I think how good he is in coverage gets kind of overblown, but the guy knows how to make a play on the ball, turn the game around with big interception, take it to the house. Like that's his kind of game. And they don't have that. So I don't know who the swing guy is defensively for them besides Micah Parsons. And, if he's not going against Trent Williams, then they're going to send all the help they can. They're going to have George Kittle on him, who's basically a sixth offensive lineman, and he's unbelievable. I'm going 30-16. I think the Niners keep the offense rolling. I think the defense is going to really contain the Cowboys, especially on the ground, and just force Dak to make plays. And I think we've seen that that's not real. That's like a 50-50 proposition at best if Dak's the guy who's got to save the day. What do you think?
I love it, man. I love it. I think I'm with you. I'm totally 5-0. I think they're going 5-0. We're not letting the Cowboys come into our house and beat us. That's just not, that doesn't fly anymore. I think that it's gonna be kind of a close game. I think a little lower scoring. I don't think the Niners are gonna cross that 30-point threshold this time. But I do think that they're gonna come out with the win. I'm gonna go 27-17. I think it's going to be a defensive battle to start kind of earlier on, maybe first half. You got feeling each other out, a couple field goals, whatever happens. But I think as the game kind of progresses along, Brock gets more comfortable. The defense starts to wear down. I think that offense starts to pick it up more than Dak and the Cowboys can. So I'll go 27-17. In the end, a kind of a comfortable win, but I think the Niners passed their first big test. And keep this, like you said, man, keep the train rolling. They're 4-0. Team's poised for a very, very special season. They've got the squad to do it. They've got Kyle Shanahan at the helm. Everybody's kind of looking like it's all starting to click right now. Yeah, man. Before we get out of here, Chuckster, any last minute shout outs before we record next?
Oh, I mean, I'm hopefully going to have an article coming out next couple days. I'm working on some stuff about Clay Thompson and his defense on the fours. Also got some stuff in the works on Usman Garuba because I'm very interested in him. I am surely watching entirely too much film for a guy who's going to play 30 games two-way. But you know me, you know how I do. I'm like, all right, we got a new guy. Let me watch every single professional possession he's had so far.
As you should. That's why you're the best, Chuckster. That's why you are the best in the business. So yeah, everybody check out Chuck's Wars coming out. As always, follow us here at Gamesy's Clay, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify. We're seeing a lot of uptick in engagement, so excited that you guys are kind of starting to join us on this fun ride, man. We got Warriors basketball around the corner, Niners football in full swing, Giants off season. We'll get into that as that kind of starts to unfold. But till the next time, man. Peace.